When the long-range interceptors have been fired, after the Aegis shield has done all it can, the fight goes close quarters. A naval knife fight. All that's left are the final lines of defense. A 6-barreled Gatling gun that can run dry in 4 seconds, and clouds of aluminum chaff designed to fool the enemy. Will they be enough to stop the final missiles, the ones that slip through the net? Prepare for the most intense final moments of a modern naval battle. On March 15, 2024, off the coast of Yemen, the USS Harry S. Truman craft carrier USS Harry S. Truman, the cruiser USS Gettysburg, and destroyers USS Stout, USS Jason Dunham, and USS The Sullivans. All are Aegis-class vessels, equipped with the Spy-1 radar, their electronic eyes and ears, capable of detecting targets hundreds of nautical miles away. As the clock struck 18 NAS, with dusk settling in, a series of strange signals appeared on the Spy-1 radar screens of the USS Gettysburg and USS Stout. These blips moved at abnormal speeds, heading directly toward the formation. In an instant, the signals were analyzed and confirmed as dangerous targets, not birds, not interference, but incoming anti-ship missiles. The general quarters alarm blared throughout the ship's decks. Sailors immediately manned their battle stations. They were accustomed to sporadic attacks in these waters, but this time, everything felt different. None of them knew that on the other side, the Houthi forces had secretly prepared a special arsenal, ready to unleash it in this scenario. After the day's losses, they were determined to retaliate with a fatal blow. The Houthis' opening salvo wasn't conventional missiles, but their most advanced weapons, something that would force the Truman Carrier Strike Group to react in the brief seconds between life and death. The initial attack launched by Houthi forces involved a high-speed anti-ship missile, designated as the ASF. This was an improved variant based on Iran's Fateh 313 short-range ballistic missile, carrying a warhead weighing up to 550 kilos of high explosives. Unlike conventional anti-ship cruise missiles, the ASF boasted incredible speed, Mach 3, equivalent to about 2,300 mph, nearly 3,700 km/h. At this velocity, from radar detection to target impact, the crew would have only about 15-30 seconds to react. The most dangerous aspect of the ASF wasn't just its speed. When flying over land, it maintained an altitude of about 20 meters, sufficient to evade many ground-based radar systems. But as it moved out to sea, it dropped to just 5 meters above the water, a sea-skimming tactic. At this altitude, the curvature of the Earth's surface meant the SPY-1 radar could only detect the target when it was very close. With the ASF, this meant the radar would see it only seconds before impact, creating immense pressure on the combat team. In this instance, the USS Gettysburg was on picket duty, positioned on the outer perimeter for early threat detection. On its radar screen, 2 high-speed targets were inbound. The Aegis combat system immediately recommended firing the SM-6 Standard missile, the U.S. Navy's most advanced air defense missile. Seconds later, 3 SM-6s launched from their VLS, vertical launch system, cells, roaring into an intercept course. The SM-6 has a speed of 1.03 km/s, slightly faster than the ASF, but its key advantage is an active seeker right from launch. It doesn't rely entirely on radar guidance from the parent ship like the SM-2, but actively emits radar waves, constantly searching for targets. This is crucial against high-speed threats. Every millisecond can be the difference between shooting down a target and allowing it to penetrate the defensive line. The result: both ASF missiles were destroyed by SM-6s before they could reach the formation. However, this victory did not mean the threat was over. Just as the Truman Strike Group was focused on dealing with the high-speed attack, the Houthis launched a volley of 4 to 16 Al-Mandab 2 missiles, another dangerous weapon. The Al-Mandab 2 is an upgraded variant of the C-802, Charlie 802, with a range of about 300 km and subsonic speed but sophisticated guidance. In its initial phase, it receives data from coastal radar. As it approaches the target, its semi-active seeker switches to an internal seeker to lock on autonomously, making interception more difficult at close range. While not as fast as the ASF, its large numbers and low trajectory made the Al-Mandab 2 a challenge that aimed to deplete the strike group's anti-air missile inventory. In a scenario where VLS cells cannot be reloaded at sea, every SM-2 or SM-6 fired reduces the defensive capability for subsequent engagements. And this was precisely the Houthi tactic, to force the U.S. Navy to burn through its anti-air missile arsenal to create vulnerabilities for subsequent attacks. When the Al-Mandab 2 missile signals began appearing in dense clusters on the SPY-1 radar screens, the commanders of the Truman Strike Group knew they couldn't react with an instinctual "fire everything until nothing is left" approach seen in movies. This was a battle demanding precise tactical calculations and maximum coordination between ships. Their primary weapon was the SPY-1 Magic Eye, an electronic phased array radar capable of 360-degree scans and processing hundreds of thousands of calculations per second. Each Aegis ship in the group, from the USS Gettysburg to the destroyers USS Stout, USS Jason Dunham, and USS The Sullivans, carried 4 radar arrays over 12 meters high, each containing more than 4,000 transmit-receive elements. In maximum mode, the SPY-1 could detect targets at 175-192 nautical miles. But for sea-skimming missiles, the actual warning range was significantly shortened. To compensate for this limitation, the ships connected via CEC, Cooperative Engagement Capability, a bidirectional data transmission system with speeds up to 850 meters per second, offering strong jamming resistance. CEC allowed each ship to see what other ships saw, extending detection and engagement ranges beyond its own sensor limits. For example, if the USS Stout on the east side of the strike group detected a target 100 nautical miles away, this information would immediately be shared with the USS The Sullivans on the west side, enabling it to fire even if the target was outside its own radar range. Given the large number of inbound missiles, commanders had to assign firing zones and engagement priorities. The shoot, shoot, look, shoot principle was applied. Each ship selected a cluster of targets, fired 2 SM-2s or SM-6s to ensure kill probability, then rescanned to assess the situation before firing again. The SM-2 was chosen for the majority of Al-Mandab 2 missiles as they were subsonic, medium-range targets. The SM-2 has a speed of Mach 3 and a range of about 200 kilometers with semi-active guidance. The SPY-1 radar would assign tasks to Mk-99 illuminators, high-power laser lights, to illuminate the targets. The reflected energy would continuously update the target's position for the SM-2 as it approached, until its active seeker activated in the final phase. SM-6s were reserved for higher-speed threats or priority targets. Though each missile costs millions of dollars, it provides much more flexible interception capabilities, including targets beyond the direct radar line of sight of the launching ship, thanks to CEC data. Through coordination, the strike group avoided a situation where one ship fired too many missiles, quickly depleting its VLS cells. Each successful intercept was immediately confirmed on radar screens. The target's bright trace vanished, replaced by a cloud of debris falling into the sea. Still, the pressure was immense. Just one missile getting through would cause catastrophic damage. When the number of inbound missiles dropped to a few stragglers, commanders began shifting to close-range defense to conserve missiles for future engagements. This was when systems like CIWS Phalanx and Mk-36 SRBOC prepared to engage. The final net between the attacker and the ship's hull. As the last SM-2 and SM-6 salvos of this intercept concluded, a few targets still managed to slip through the long-range defense net on the SPY-1 radar. They were rapidly approaching within a few nautical miles, moving low over the water at high speeds. This was the moment sailors called a naval knife fight, close quarters combat at sea. At this point, the most logical choice to conserve VLS missiles was to activate the CIWS, Close-In Weapon System Phalanx, affectionately dubbed Sea-Whiz by sailors. This is a 20mm six-barreled Gatling gun system, firing at a rate of up to 4,500 rounds per minute. CIWS is fully automatic, with its own integrated radar, capable of detecting targets over 8 kilometers away and engaging at a kill range of just 1.5 kilometers, meaning less than 2 seconds from trigger pull to missile impact. The USS Stout was the first ship to confront the remaining targets. The commander ordered unmasked batteries, turning the ship's bow to give the forward CIWS the best firing angle. In an instant, the system locked onto targets. The Gatling gun roared, unleashing hundreds of armor-piercing rounds with depleted uranium cores. In their path, each missile was shredded into fragments, burning and falling into the sea. However, CIWS has a critical limitation. Its magazine only holds 300 rounds, meaning the entire ammunition supply would be expended after about 4.5 seconds of continuous firing. And in this battle, that's exactly what happened. As the system took down a few targets, the magazine emptied, and the mag-empty alarm blared. With CIWS out of commission, the final layer of defense shifted to the Mk-36 SRBOC, Super Rapid Bloom Offboard Countermeasures, the chaff launching system. These are launchers that work like giant paper cannons. Each round is fired at 75 MES, exploding near the ship, creating a massive cloud of 3 to 5 million thin aluminum fibers. Each fiber is heated by the explosion, reflecting radar waves more strongly than the actual ship, creating a false target with a radar cross-section of up to $10,000 meters. This technique requires the operator to coordinate with the navigator to turn the ship into the wind so the chaff cloud drifts away, forcing the missile to be lured by the decoy ship instead of the real one. When attracted to the chaff, most missiles will lose their lock and plunge into the sea. In this engagement, the USS Jason Dunham deployed chaff precisely, saving itself from an Al-Mandab 2 missile that was less than 1 kilometer away. The missile diverted towards the aluminum cloud, passed through it finding nothing, and then plunged into the sea, leaving a white plume of water in the ship's wake. The final minutes of the attack were a combination of CIWS firepower, chaff deception techniques, and the skillful maneuvering of the helmsman. When the last piece of debris vanished from the radar screens, the atmosphere on the ship's decks remained taut. The sailors knew they had just weathered a steel storm, but this might not be the enemy's final blow. As the last target signal vanished from the SPY-1 radar screens, the command decks of the USS Harry S. Truman and her escorts slowly emerged from the suffocating atmosphere of the battle. The general quarters alarm was silenced, but no one immediately left their post. Everyone remained in a ready stance, eyes scanning the dark sea, wary of any new blips reappearing on screen. The strike group had just experienced the largest naval battle for the U.S. Navy since World War II, with the enemy being not a regular naval force, but a non-state actor, the Houthi forces in Yemen. Within hours, they had faced two different types of weapons: the ASF, a hypersonic, ultra-low sea-skimming anti-ship missile, and the Al-Mandab 2, a subsonic missile launched in volleys to erode defensive capabilities. This victory didn't come from a single system, but was the result of a multi-layered defense. Long-range SM-6 and SM-2, combined with SPY-1 radar, and shared data via CEC to neutralize the majority of threats from afar. Medium-range, SM-2 and Mk-99 illuminators locked onto and destroyed targets that bypassed the outer perimeter. Close-range, CIWS Phalanx finished off the last remaining targets. Decoy layer, Mk-36 SRBOC launched chaff to create false targets, forcing missiles to lose lock and fall into the sea. However, this victory also left many lessons. The battle revealed an alarming rate of anti-air missile expenditure. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer carries approximately 96 VLS cells, but not all contain SM-2, SM-6. After a few salvos, the defensive missile reserves can rapidly diminish, and at sea, reloading is not possible. This makes ammunition conservation and calculation a crucial strategic factor for survival. On the Houthi side, they demonstrated a worrying point. With external technological support, even a non-state actor can deploy complex attack tactics, combining high-speed missiles and large numbers of medium-range missiles to exploit the logistical weaknesses of an opposing navy. These were no longer isolated attacks with a few old C-802s, but coordinated, multi-layered operations. On deck, a sense of relief mingled with vigilance. The crew understood that they had survived tonight, but tomorrow could be a different story. Intelligence reports indicated that the Houthis still had missiles in their arsenal and likely had prepared new variants or different tactics to counter UAS defense systems. The tactical officer's warning echoed over the internal communication system. Don't think we've won yet. This was just round one. The entire USS Harry S. Truman's strike group knew well, round two, perhaps even round three, could be waiting just over the horizon. And in those next engagements, speed, coordination, and the ability to remain calm under pressure would again be the only keys between victory and disaster.